They are the insiders, Bob McKenzie, Pierre LeBrun, and Darren Dreger. All right, Jake Muzzin is off the trade bait board. A number of good-looking blue liners are still available out there. How does Jake Muzzin's departure from the list affect Cody Ceci and the Ottawa Senators?
Well, it has to be of intrigue to Pierre Dorion. I mean, that's a heck of a return for the Los Angeles Kings when you look at a first-round draft pick and a couple of prospects from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the Ottawa Senators are still in a rebuild mode, so the return absolutely is attractive. There's been much speculation around Cody Ceci, whether he's in play or he's not in play. For that return, 100% Cody Ceci is in play. Why wouldn't Ottawa look for a first-round pick, a couple of prospects, or a first-round pick and an NHL roster player for a 25-year-old right-shot D-man? He's got to get Snow signed. He's trying to sign Duchesne, and he might sign Ryan Dzingel. So he's got to move out some pieces and get great return.
But he has competition. We've been talking all year long about the Carolina Hurricanes and their loaded D. They'd like to move in for a top six forward, so that means either Pesce or Hamilton or Justin Falk, who's gotten a little more interest of late from teams, by the way. They're going to move one of those guys before the February 25th trade deadline if they can net that top six forward. So from that perspective, Ottawa has their work cut out.
Tough spot right now for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Artemi Panarin's on an expiring contract. His agent has already said they're not talking contract until the end of the year. What do the Jackets do?
Yeah, it's an awful position to be in if you're Jarmo Kekalainen and the GM of Blue Jackets, but they knew from last summer that this would probably be the case. So here's where it sits. I think they're going to trade him, but it has to be at the level that they want in terms of the return. I can't think of a rental player that would have a bigger offensive impact on a contender this year. Think of Nashville or Boston, teams that I believe, if they haven't already, will phone Columbus on this player. If the Jackets can get the kind of package they want, then they have to turn around and fill that roster spot. They're buyers and they're sellers. It's going to be a complicated month for Jarmo Kekalainen.
When Kyle Dubas was last asked about his contract negotiations with Auston Matthews, all he said was healthy dialogue. Where are we at now, Bob?
Well, it's been crickets publicly from Kyle Dubas and the agents for Auston Matthews, Judd Moldaver, and Jeff Jackson. But obviously, there's talks being going on behind the scenes, and there is reason to believe that they are making some notable progress and that there's a legitimate chance, but by no means a guarantee, that this deal could be done before the NHL trade deadline. Now, one of the reasons why it may have picked up steam and the progress is because I don't believe the 7- and 8-year contract options are as attractive or as easy to get done as maybe a 5- or a 6-year deal. And as Darren Dreger and Pierre LeBrun, sitting beside me, have reported over the last week, the 5- and the 6-year option looks a lot more enticing for both the Leafs and Matthews at this point. The 8-year deal will be up around 12.5, 13, 13.5. That would really handcuff the Toronto Maple Leafs. The shorter 5- or 6-year deal, think more along the line of John Tavares' $11.5 million, add $500,000, subtract $500,000 in that neighborhood. So stay tuned between now and the trade deadline. We'll see.
We've been talking a lot about the Michael Ferland potential trade out of Carolina. Is that close?
I would say this, that the Hurricanes in the perfect world would move him sooner rather than later, I think within the next week or two, if someone steps up and meets their price. And the reason for that is Michael Ferland, a bruising power forward, very talented player, also a guy that gets hurt. So I don't think they want to risk waiting till February 25th, Gino, and see his trade value drop if he gets hurt. So yes, whether it's conversations they're having, I believe, with teams like Boston or Nashville or Pittsburgh, and there's other contenders in there, if there's a fit in the next week or two, I think they'll pull the trigger.
Where are the Oilers in their GM search?
Well, there's no rush, even though the trade deadline of February 25th is looming. The Oilers know that they need to get this one right. So that's not to say that Bob Nicholson isn't continuing to gather intelligence and information. 100% that's what he's doing. I wouldn't expect that he reaches out for permission to speak with potential candidates this week, maybe as early as next week, but there will be a full-blown search for the replacement for Peter Chiarelli.
When the Oilers get around to asking for permission, a lot of us believe that Kelly McCrimmon, the assistant general manager of the Vegas Golden Knights, may be at or near the top of the list for the Edmonton Oilers. The big question everybody's asking is, would Vegas grant permission in season for McCrimmon to be interviewed and potentially leave for the Edmonton job? Now, George McPhee, the general manager in Vegas, he shuts down all talk of that. He won't even bring up the subject and just shuts it down like that. I've known George a long time. Personally, I'd be absolutely shocked if 3 or 4 weeks before the trade deadline, someone asked for permission for his right-hand man that he would grant that, especially to a division rival. So I don't think George and the Vegas Golden Knights are standing in the way of Kelly McCrimmon down the road, but it's got to be the right time, and I'm not sure it's now.
From the Oilers fans' perspective, they're probably just thinking, we don't care how long it takes, just get it right, because this next hire will be huge.